You're listening to the She Lift Project podcast, a show dedicated to helping women achieve higher levels of success in the workplace. No matter where you are in your career, we want to help you grow. Now here's your host, Cynthia Kirkpatrick, a CPA, CFP, and Senior Financial Advisor at Moneta Group.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the She Lift Project podcast. I'm Cynthia Kirkpatrick. Thanks for joining us today. And also joining us, April Porter. Thank you for coming in this, whenever you're listening to us, Monday morning and joining us to share your story and tips.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
And it's funny, as we're sitting here talking this morning, you were already telling me about more projects that you have going on. So I think the story today will be fun from a lot of different types of experiences, but listening to a mind who seems to me to be constantly going and thinking of how can we be different? How can we be helping people? How can we, just grow and expand business for all and anywhere? So excited to have you here. We met over a year ago. I think it was with small businesses. You were hosting a sessions a couple days to really work with small business and their owners and grow and evolve.
Yeah, that was our SWAG conference. And SWAG is an acronym that I coined. It stands for Sanity, Wealth, and Gratitude. And in everything that I work on now, that's really the question is, does this help small business owners get to a life of sanity, wealth, and gratitude? Because so many of our small business owners are actually living in chaos, fear, scarcity, and it's because they don't have the resources or the education that they need in order to thrive. And when you don't have that, I mean, you're, as a small business owner, you're responsible for every dollar that comes in the door, right? So you're always waiting for the next customer and worried about that, and it can be a very stressful identity to have.
So before we jump into all of that, how you're helping people with that and where that is, I mean, really today, what you're doing is a couple of different businesses. And again, since one is relatively new, since we first talked about what we were going to discuss today, I'll let you set that up for what you have going on.
Sure, I'd love to. So our newest venture, my newest venture, is called Secret Sauce. It's actually spelled Secret SOS.
Aha.
Yes. So there's a little twist in there. And it's also secret agent themed, which is super fun, the way we roll it out. But so Secret Sauce is actually a culmination of all of the work I've done for small business owners. But the work that I've done in the past with my personal brand has been high ticket. And I also have a network of other friends that are coaches and consultants and total experts in their fields, but they're also very high ticket. And so what I realized is that there's a huge gap in small business education for the person who's just starting out, or for the small business owner who, didn't get the education early on, because as a society, we keep telling people that the American dream is to open a business, and that's all you need to do is have passion and open a business. And it's like, well, there's a little more to it than that. So we have some small business owners who have been trying to do all the right things until they've depleted their capital, and they can't afford high ticket help. And what I see happening is I see that that's really where the evidence of the small business failure statistics are coming from, are those two groups. And so I wanted to be able to offer our high ticket expert mentorship at a price that they could afford.
And that's what you mean by high ticket. I was going to come back to it at some point, but high ticket is being able to pay for, bring in coaches, mentors, experts.
Yeah. So typically for a small business owner to get true business changing education, they're looking at spending in the range of at least $1,500 to $4,000 a month for high ticket coaches like myself and others. And for many businesses, that is just not feasible. And for a lot of businesses, it's just that they don't believe it's feasible. But if we can't get over that hump and we can't help them like learn how to scale, how to work less in the business and work more on the business, then they're going to fail. And that's what the statistics tell us. I mean, 20% of small business owners fail in the first year, 30% by year 3, 50% by year 5, and 70% by year 10 fail. And each failure for a small business owner is not just about, reputation. It's often they've put their 401ks into starting the business. They put their entire life savings into starting the business. They've missed their young children growing up because they've been working in the business. Entrepreneurs have one of the highest divorce rates of any profession. And honestly, a lot of these failed small businesses also result in suicide. And so all of those things can be prevented if we get the education to people so that they aren't making the mistakes that are taking them down the road of failure.
Yeah, and I see it with younger people. I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm 40-something, getting closer to my higher 40s, and I have kids that are younger, and they're talking about passive income or owning their own business. And, as an older person, all those things you said about, which you brought even more data than I was aware of, is I'm sitting here as an older person saying, starting your own business, building your own business, it's not for the faint of heart.
I agree. In fact, I would say that the number one skill you need to have as a small business owner is risk tolerance and resilience. I guess that's 2 skills, but they go hand in hand. And that is something that our younger generation is actually lacking in. They're lacking in the resilience of the older generations. And it's coming from a place of, it's really coming from a good place. Of course, the people now who are parents, they want to provide more for their children than they had, and they want to do more for their children. But what we're seeing is that there is a lack of resilience. There is a lack of being able to overcome challenges sometimes because, this isn't true across the board, of course, but we're seeing that in schools. They just dropped the grading scales in schools. When I was in school to get an A, I had to have a 95. I went to a private school, so it was different than the public school, but I had a 95 or above to get an A. And now in schools, one of my clients, she owns a Learning RX franchise, and that helps children who are delayed in their reading abilities. It helps it get up to, she told me that in her school district, what was formerly a C is now an A.
Wow.
So what we're doing is we're taking away obstacles for children. And when we take away obstacles, they don't learn how to overcome those obstacles. Well, now what we have is a generation that's coming up that has less resilience and less ability to overcome challenges. And in business, that's all you have as a business owner is challenge after challenge after challenge. And so we have to re-educate and help people really understand how to overcome those challenges.
It's almost a little bit fearful, as you referenced earlier, the American dream, start your own business, run your own business. I think 20 years down the road of, we may not have a lot of small businesses getting started.
I agree with that. Or our failure rates are going to increase, right? So that's the question: is how do we reverse this, or how do we help increase the success rates? And that's our goal with Secret Sauce, is to ultimately see a change in the statistics and lower the rates of failure.
And when you think about, I think some things you talked about, and we've had other people on the podcast with their episodes, is business owners are typically really great and passionate in one area, yet it takes so many other skill sets and knowledge base to run a business successfully and grow and scale. What is it that's missing? Or what is it, if you were to talk to a business owner, somebody thinking about starting their business, here are the first few things you really need to be set up for and have down pat to give yourself as high of a success rate as possible to beat all those stats you talked about?
Yeah, the thing is, I don't believe there is one or two specific things. It's a holistic view. You have to wear every hat when you're a business owner, especially when you're starting out. Now, as you grow in scale, that gives you the ability to start bringing on team members and surround yourself with experts in the things that are your weaknesses, right? But to start out, the number one piece of advice I would give to anybody who wants to start a business is there's no shame in not doing it alone. I think that is one of the things that really hamstrings people, because most people are starting a business after having been employed for someone else. And they've been frustrated in that employment, right? It's like, like I have all these great ideas of ways we could be more productive, or we could do X and do Y and do Z, and my boss says no to all of them. If I was the boss, I would say yes to my ideas, and then, I would be able to serve customers better. So that's one reason, that people start a business. So then when they start a business, it feels like if I'm the business owner, then I'm the one who has to make all the decisions, and I'm the one who needs to know what they're doing. And it's not my business if I'm have a team of people or have an expert or a mentor or somebody else telling me what to do. That's just another boss. And I don't even think that these are conscious thoughts, but I believe that there's such an independence that comes with claiming I'm a business owner, and that's what people are craving, that they dive in and start down the road all alone. And it's about a year to 18 months in when they realize that they've exhausted everything that they know how to do, and they're still stuck. And by stuck, what I mean is that they feel like they're on a hamster wheel. They're usually working more hours than they did when they were working for someone else. And they're generally making less money than they did when they were working for somebody else. And they can't see the pathway to change that, because they've done everything they know how to do. And now they're sitting in that void of, I don't know what I don't know. And that's a scary place to be, because you don't even know what question to ask. Mm-hmm. And so if we could just change that and say, no. The very first thing you need to do is you need to lock arms with an expert. Not, this needs to be an expert. What is an expert versus a business coach or a business mentor? Well, an expert has the proven track record, right? Have they done it themselves? Have they been a business owner? What type of business did they own, right? It's very different to be an influencer as a business than to open a storefront business in your local community. Those are two different things. So you need to find someone and invest in yourself first before you invest in a business. When you invest in working with an expert so that you can increase your business intelligence, that is going to pay off as you invest in your business and help accelerate you towards success.
So for me sitting here, I'm thinking, I wonder if she means, or she's telling people, while you still are working at that other company, while you're an employee and you're thinking about starting a business, find those experts that you can start learning from before you quit and try to hang up shop.
I mean, it certainly wouldn't hurt.
If you got the time and all that.
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't hurt. I mean, and I guess in an ideal timeline, I would say before you decide what type of business you're even going to open, you should be consulting with someone. Because most people are opening a business based on their passion. And most times that doesn't pay off. And people might, right now, listeners are going to be like, oh, whatever. I mean, of course I would start. The reason I would be a business owner is so I could do something that I love, right? Because that's what you're told is if you do what you love, then you'll never work a day in your life, right? Well, that's not true. The reality is, most people, when they choose for passion, they're not necessarily choosing a business model that is going to take them to sanity, wealth, and gratitude. And when you choose for passion, what you're thinking about is, I want to love what I do every day. Well, the whole point in being a business owner is that you have time freedom and that you aren't the employee sitting there doing the job day after day after day. And that's the ultimate dream, but most people can't see past what they already know. And we've been programmed to be employees since we were young children. The school system perpetuates a subconscious programming that just sets you up to be an employee. And we could talk more about that if you want to. But because of that, it's very difficult for people to really comprehend being happy, owning a business that they aren't passionate about, until they get into a business they're passionate about and it ruins that passion. They lose the love for that passion. They become burned out and they become regretful that they sunk all of their money and their time and their life savings and everything into that business. So let me give you an example just to bring it home. So let's say I love making flower arrangements. And I make flower arrangements for my friends and for my family. In fact, some people have asked me to make flower arrangements for their wedding. And so I started doing that. And people are so complimentary of them. They're always telling me, you should start your own business. You should be a florist. And I'm like, you know what? I really would love that way more than I love working in the accounting department, right, of whatever business. So I decide I'm going to invest and open a storefront florist business. If all I do is stand in my store and make flower arrangements, that business is going to fail because customers aren't walking through the doors, you're not growing, you're not getting orders that are big enough in order to sustain the rent and all the overhead. So your job as a business owner of a florist shop is not to make the flower arrangements. Your job is to grow the business, which means you need to be networking. You have to be marketing. You have to be doing the books, but looking at it from a business finance perspective. You have to be hiring people now and managing employees and doing all these things that you may actually not want to do, or maybe you don't know whether or not you want to do them, but you certainly don't have the skills for it. You have the skills to make flowers. And that's where the gap exists. And that's where the education is needed. But the best advice I could give to someone is, if you're super passionate about making flowers, go interview at every florist shop in your area and find the owner who needs someone who's brilliant at making flower arrangements and who will treat you right as an employee there, where you can be collaborative and do the thing that you love to do every single day and you're passionate about. Don't go open a florist shop.
And it's for all of those other hats you talked about, that if you don't either already have the skill set or it's a total turnoff to you, you're going to end up, as you referenced, potentially even hating what you're passionate about, because now it becomes this thing where you thought you were going to do this, but you have to do all these other things, and you're stuck.
Right. And it's because we're pulled towards our passions, right? So we want to spend our time doing our passion, which means we procrastinate or we neglect the things that cause us friction. Like maybe marketing, maybe I'm an introvert, and that's why I love spending my time with flowers. And the thought of having to go out and network and market just is totally not my cup of tea. Well, then that may not be a good business for you. Now, the caveat to that is, you can find someone, though, who's a brilliant marketer and networker, and you can be the business owner and surround yourself with people who have strengths where you have weaknesses. But then you have to start with the capital in order to get those team members on right away. Otherwise, the business will fail. So you need to understand, how much capital do you need? What's the difference between business and personal finance and how you manage those? And then you have to understand hiring and interviewing and, all those other pieces if that's your plan. And most people go into business and their plan literally is, I want to open a florist shop.
So I wonder if, you think back 30 years, 40 years, et cetera, and I think about these small towns, we don't have the internet, that maybe it was easier to start a business back then than it is today. More HR rules, regulations, know how to do social media marketing, know how to do regular marketing, know how to do all these things that, why does it seem like, and maybe I'm just not aware, that it was a lot easier, or there's all these smaller mom and pop things, quote unquote, versus today?
Oh, I think it was easier, but for a lot of different factors. For one, if you're in a small town and there's a florist in town, you're probably not going to open up a competing florist shop. So there's less competition. If you're in a small town, everybody knows that now you have the new florist shop in town, so they know where to go. They're not going to Amazon for things. They're not shopping online. They're shopping locally for everything. So you don't have to market back then the way that you would have to market now. In addition, what makes it more complicated now is that you're getting so much information and advice from people who have no authority, credibility, or expertise. They have no reason that they should be giving advice. But yet I see people taking that out of FOMO, the fear of missing out. There's so much fear of missing out because of everything that's out on social media. So I really try to impress upon people, because there's a lot of business Facebook groups out there. And in my opinion, you should never take advice out of a business Facebook group. Facebook groups are great for peer support. It's great for market research, right? But it's not great for advice, because you have no idea who's giving you that advice. You have no idea if they've tried it, if it's worked, what area of the country they live in, and how that factors into whether or not it worked for them. It's not the place to go. Stop going to Facebook for advice, or any of the other platforms either. So there's advice, there's mentorship, and then there is true expert education. And so you can go to Facebook groups for advice, you can go to networking events, things like that for mentorship. But when you want to know for sure how to take your business from here to here, then you've got to invest in yourself, which requires investing in education.
And that goes back to that, I think, high ticket you talked about earlier, which is where you're trying to fill that gap to where, how can we help these small businesses set themselves up for true success with help at where they wouldn't be able to afford it.
Oh, yeah.
Until they reach some of those hurdles that you talked about earlier.
Right. So what I've done with Secret Sauce is I've actually recruited several experts in various areas. So we have a CPA, we have a LinkedIn expert who just focuses on how to get business from LinkedIn and network on LinkedIn. We have an HR expert who can answer all your HR questions, a leadership and culture expert who can help you understand how to get your employees to start driving the revenue for you, a client success expert, a profit first expert is coming on with Profit First is a book, a small business finance book, and she's amazing. Who else do we have? Oh, a sales expert. So anyway, we brought all these experts together, and the experts have given their curriculum into Secret Sauce. And then what we did is, using technology, we're able to customize the learning path that people go on based upon their needs in their business. And so those are called missions. Like I said, it's secret agent themed. So you go on a mission and you go through the education pieces you need for the first step that you need to take in your business. And then you also have the opportunity to go into live Zoom meetings that the experts lead and ask your questions and get that human mentorship and that human support so that you're not misapplying the information, right? And then the third prong of Secret Sauce is financial assistance. We have a small business grant program that right now we're running quarterly. And then as we grow the business, our goal is to have that available monthly for small business owners to apply for and to receive financial assistance for their businesses as well.
So I think, wow, April, I have this great, amazing idea, something I'm passionate about, maybe not, of starting my own business. I find you, or I should find somebody like you, Secret Sauce. What does that look like? Or maybe a better answer is, of the people that are coming to use Secret Sauce, what do they look like?
Right. So it is a wide range. So some people are just getting started, which I love that because that means we can avoid so many of the mistakes that cost you time and money. And anything that's going to cost you time and money in business is going to cause stress. Right? And you got into business to alleviate stress. So let's start with that, right?
I know there was probably a lot of people shaking their heads earlier when you were talking about my boss won't listen to me. I can't share my ideas. I'm sure they're now shaking their heads again. You got into business to alleviate stress. Let's try to do that.
Right. So being able to talk to people and helping them walk through the decision-making process before they do invest a bunch of money and time into something that maybe isn't a viable idea. That's awesome to do. And I do want to say, I'm not saying don't ever follow your passions in business. I'm just saying that if that's the sole thing you're trying to accomplish is to be able to do your passion every single day, then there's a lot of booby traps along the way.
It sounds like you're saying, like, if you're going to go into it, great, just go into it with eyes wide open. Versus this maybe narrow, what sounds, super sweet and amazing of, you really love doing this, go start your own business. And it will be, because the flip side, and I'm sure you'll get more into it, is you may drain your 401k, you may put your family or whoever in financial situation. Go into it, but go into it educated and aware.
Yes, 100%. And so we can help people who are just getting started, but most of the people who are coming to us in Secret Sauce are coming to us because they have had the revelation that they don't have the answers. So they've done trial and error, and they're realizing it's a year and a half, it's 3 years in, and I'm still, like I said earlier, I'm still working 60, 80 hours a week. I got into this so I could pick my kids up from school and so I could attend their soccer games that are after school, and I haven't been able to attend one. I got into this so that my family, we could go on great family vacations, and I haven't been on a vacation now in 5 years. More people are coming to us for those reasons than, hey, I'm running out of money in my business, or I'm not making money. Now, they go hand in hand, but it's the lifestyle sacrifices that are causing people more pain than taking home a paycheck that isn't what they thought it would be.
Yeah, and when we were preparing for this, I had underlined and starred the swag, sanity, wealth, and gratitude, and all of those pieces kind of go hand in hand, being able to live a positive, happy life with your sanity. I think I lost mine years ago, still searching for it. But it goes back to what you said, is those lifestyle sacrifices seem to be what's hitting most people, which I'm sure, again, they have to have the resilience to work through and overcome.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the reason that I got into all of this is, I became a franchisee. And when you become a franchisee, you're sold, even before you become a franchisee, you're really sold on the idea that you're buying into this proven system and that it's going to give you everything you need to be successful. And then once you're in, what the franchisor really teaches you how to do is make the flower arrangements. ring people up at the cash register, right? They teach you how to run the Facebook ad, but they don't teach you all of those other pieces that truly help grow a business. They don't teach you how to be a business owner. They teach you how to be a business operator. When I got into it, when I realized that, that's when I started my own journey to discover, okay, I got to fill in all these gaps, because I'm not here to instruct people in kickboxing. That's not why I became a business owner. So I started to figure it out on my own. But what I saw these patterns repeating with all of my fellow franchisees. And I just was like, I saw people getting divorced. I saw people, just kind of wasting their lives away in what they thought was going to be the thing that would bring them the most joy.
And I'm sure for many reasons it's hard to shut it down or walk away. So you continue the cycle of stuck.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I talk to business owners all the time where the last thing they do before they go to bed is they're answering emails on their phone, laying in bed, or they're checking the social media feeds to see if any customers have reached out or anything like that. And then the very first thing they do when they wake up is the same thing. And it's like, again, it goes to our subconscious programming, right? And there's a lot of reasons why we're grabbing our devices. And people who don't own businesses are grabbing their devices as soon as they wake up and before they go to bed too. But as a business owner, it's never turning off. And business owners are typically very high achievers. They've been high achievers their whole lives. They are also have a lot of self-responsibility. And I was just talking to, I have a podcast as well, and I was just talking to one of my guests who is a sex therapist and an entrepreneur. We were talking about the toll that entrepreneurism can have on a relationship. And so she was actually telling me that most entrepreneurs are very, very self-responsible, but they take on responsibility for everything around them and internalize it as they're responsible. So business owners are responsible for making the business successful, for making their household successful, meaning providing vacations, all those other things. But then the relationships, and now if the relationships are wavering or if they're struggling, then they take that on as that's my fault too, because I'm doing too much in the business. But then when they look at not doing as much in the business, they see their employees. I have a responsibility to keep my employees employed and to grow the revenue so I can even provide a better life for my employees, right? And then they see their customers. Oh, I have a customer complaint. I'll tell you, a customer complaint to a small business owner, it'll ruin their entire day, maybe their entire week, because they're so disappointed for that single customer to have a bad experience. And when people are jerks about it, I would love it as a society. You could really understand the ripple effects of, small interactions. But if you have to make a complaint to a small business owner, just be kind, because they are going to beat themselves up more than you ever will. But it's like, so anyway, I think I just kind of explained the whole ripple effect of what small business owners typically are going through. And so much emphasis is placed on the tactics and, you need to know HR, you need to know marketing, you need to do this. And all of that is true. But that's another component that we really recognize with Secret Sauce is that you are a whole person. Mm. You need to be nurtured in your mind, your body, your spirit, and your business. And so many things out there are just piling on more of, you need to do this in business, and this is what you should be doing, and business. And the mind, body, and soul are getting more and more neglected. And so we're trying to bring more balance in that way too.
And those relationships
exactly
are getting neglected. I'm sure, I would think, people are like, well, if you're going to be a business owner, great, but you better be tough. You better be willing to put in a lot of hours. You better be shoulda, woulda, coulda. And so as you said, then they just pour into, I'm going to sacrifice myself, mind, body, spirit, to make sure my employees have what they need, the customers have what I need, oh, my family needs this. And at the end of the day, they don't even get, they're not allowing themselves 5 seconds to put the device down, not scroll through all that before they shut their brain off to try to recover for the next day.
Oh, right. I mean, they're not eating meals. They're not working out. And I mean, working out isn't for everyone, but I mean, some movement throughout the day that is meant to just clear your mind. People have lost their like prayer practices, right? They're just their ability to just be mindful, and be present in the moment. So we work on all of that. I forgot to mention, we have 2 experts in there. One is a prosperity mindset expert. Another one is also a functional medicine and mindset expert who teaches like breath work and tapping and other things that can help really regulate your central nervous system to bring that stress down and to start to help people re-engage with their mind, body, spirit, and business as a whole person.
So I sit here and think, one, that's amazing, because all that stuff I think is newer. And then I sit here thinking, if I'm a business owner going, great, April, I need to try to fit that into my schedule too.
Right. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes, because in the moment of chaos and overwhelm, it totally feels like that's impossible. And how do I do that? And I was there. I mean, what started me on this journey, truly, once I became a kickboxing gym owner, I mean, 3 months in, we were profitable. But I didn't know if I was doing well because I wasn't getting feedback from my franchisor. I mean, I was like, well, we have 150 members. Is that good? Is that not good? I don't know. So you just keep doing more and more and more. By the time we were opening we had just opened our 3rd location. I had worked another day. I think I was getting home around 9 p.m. And in the business, we were opening at 8 a.m. in the beginning. Ultimately, we started opening at 5 a.m. And closed at 8 p.m. And so I came home another night. My husband had come home early. He'd made dinner. I came home to warm up my plate, and he said, I'm not happy. I mean, I was standing in the kitchen. I remember this like it was yesterday. And he said, I'm not happy. And it made my stomach drop because I knew I was working too much. We'd had conversations about the fact that, hey, wasn't the plan. When is this going to slow down? And you were supposed to be home more than you were when you were an attorney. And so I thought he was starting a conversation that was going to be about divorce. And I was terrified. And I asked him right away, I'm like, what are you saying? Are you saying you want a divorce? And luckily he said no. But what I'm saying is, this isn't what we signed up for. I do not want to keep doing this. And I want to see you. You need to be home. We need to have our life outside of the business.
Which that's a great thing that he wants to see you.
It is. It was a fantastic thing. But I mean, like, in my mind at that moment in time, to go back to what you were saying about how do you do this, in my mind, I was like, okay, if I walk away from the gyms, we'll file bankruptcy. Like there was no way to understand in that moment how to make that happen other than just walking away. Because I didn't have the skills and I didn't have the knowledge to understand how I could be successful in the business without putting in all those hours. And luckily, that's when I found my first executive coach. And when I found him, his prices were high ticket. And I didn't feel like I could pay high ticket. And I said to him, I think you are the right person to help me. And I'd been through a couple of other coaches that had not worked out. I didn't get what I needed out of it. I didn't feel any more intelligent after working with them. And I really felt like he was the right one. But I said, I can't afford it. And he said, how much can you afford? And I was like, maybe $500 a month. And he said, you know what? You pay me $500 a month. And then when you're ready, you can pay me my full price. which this was like his full price, I think at the time was $1,600 a month. And I said, okay. And I did my first session with him and I cried. Like I had so many ahas and so many like revelations that I was just an emotional mess. But it was in that first session that I said to him, I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I cannot in good conscience pay you $500 a month. You are clearly worth your full amount. And based on what I've learned here today, I have full confidence that I'm going to learn how to create the money and create my lifestyle. And so I said, I'm going to pay it. Within 60 days of working with him, I was not working nights. I was not working weekends. We had our first vacation that we'd had in 5 years. And when I went on that vacation, I took my phone, I put it in the hotel safe, I locked it, and I didn't touch that again until we went home. So my employees could have no contact with me, and I could not work on anything in the business during that time. And that was all possible in 60 days. But in that moment in the kitchen with my husband, I did not understand how it was even possible because I had such a limited knowledge at that point in time.
I'm sitting here thinking, wow, because even with what I do, I work a ton, and the vacations, there's always some kind of like, okay, mom, don't work so much. I'm sure there are people listening, they're going, right, April, I'm in your position. That sounds great, but what, how, who, what, they're overwhelmed.
Yep.
But it sounds like that's where you've taken a lot of your experiences to pull together this advisory board and mentorship and coaching and, to be able to hopefully get them, whether it's 60 days, less, more, into that swag lifestyle that they left their regular job for to get, and they could be just starting out or years in and still haven't achieved it.
Exactly. Yeah, one of my clients was had owned his franchises for 30 years when he found me. He was sleeping on the floor of his lab. It was a Pearl Vision. So he makes eyeglasses. He's an optician. And he would be making eyeglasses so late into the night that he would just sleep on the floor of the lab some nights. And he credits me with saving his marriage. And I'm like, I'm not a marriage counselor. That's not what I do. But again, we have to talk about the things that are going on in your life because you're a whole person, right?
And I'd written down a few of those things that you had, leadership and culture expert. Yes. Wow. Client success expert. Some of the other things you had talked about, I don't feel like most people understand how important that is in their own business, and or two, with the coaching and the mentorship they get. I'm thinking that's got to be pretty rare, what you're providing.
Yeah. As far as I know, we are completely innovative. We're the only, sometimes people ask us, oh, aren't you guys like a masterclass, right? And no, we're not like masterclass. One, and this isn't to knock masterclass, just the difference is I think that they offer things in courses, and they have a well-known person. They're selling celebrity, right? You can learn how to be an actress from Natalie Portman in one course. It's like, well, guess what? Natalie Portman didn't take one course to learn how to be an actress. She's done it for decades, right? So what we've done differently is, one, you have access to everything you need inside there. But the number one threat to small business owners is overwhelm. That's what will tank their self-development, their personal and professional development, is that they're working on something and it's going really well, and then an employee quits, and now there's chaos in the business, and I have to jump in and cover that employee's shifts, and so I neglect my professional and personal development, right? So overwhelm is the number one threat. So that's why we have the learning pathways. And And by having the individual experts the way that we do, we're able to say, like, okay, for you, the fastest pathway for you to create more revenue in your business is to focus on client success. Your current clients, if we can get their success rate and retention rate up, that's going to create more revenue for you fast. And then let's go out and find new clients, right? Whereas somebody else, they might be just a one-time purchase business. So they need more people walking through the door. So they need something different. They need to talk to our LinkedIn expert or our sales expert or something else to start with. But
so instead of hiring all these individual people and putting the capital out for that, you can gain access to those, the experts in those areas, plus the guidance, as you just said, of where to start. For you, start here, and here's your path. For you, it's different. That's a way to grow and scale with more affordable cost than trying to, okay, now I hire a full-time salesperson. Now I hire a full-time.
Well, and that's what I was seeing. And that's honestly what I was experiencing, because I mean, any expert that you're learning from better have their own mentors. Like, I'm always learning. I'm every stage of business you're at, the skills that brought you here, the skills and strategies that brought you here are not the skills and strategies that will take you to the next level. You have to learn the skills and strategies that take you to the next level. So I'm always learning as well. So I have my own mentors. Well, back in 2020, I needed to learn how to run an online business. I knew how to run storefront businesses, but not online businesses. So I signed up for a business mentor. And what I found is I was paying my business mentor a high ticket monthly fee. And then, in addition to that, now I needed to pay this copywriter expert, and I needed to pay, anyway, every area I wanted to have my own mindset coach. And so I paid her, and she was high ticket. So what people are running into is that either they're investing a ton of money every month to have 3 or 4 specialty coaches, or more likely, they are stalling their growth by saying, okay, I can only afford one coach for this program for 6 months. And when I'm finished with that, I'm going to move on to the next one. Not only is that going to delay their actual growth, but it's also kind of compartmentalizing their knowledge and not allowing it to be full picture. So one of our goals is, with our different experts, if somebody wants to implement a sales strategy in their business, we're able to say, okay, that's a great sales strategy. Now let's look at how that's affecting your employment compensation plan. And let's talk to the HR expert as to whether or not you can pay your employees in the way that you want to based on the sales strategy that you created with the sales person, right? So everything's interconnected in your business in the way that each decision you make has ripple effects through many departments. And being able to talk to all those experts to figure that out before you get hit with a regulatory violation or an employee quitting because they're upset over the compensation plan or whatever it might be. So that's the goals. We try to provide that holistic view so that people can avoid the minefields that they don't know are out there.
Yeah, it sounds perfect for small business. You don't have to wear all those hats, because you're inevitably not going to be able to, or to do it well. And you don't have to worry about hiring that one person full-time or whichever. You can get an integrated approach to the education and the growing and the scaling. So you'll grow and scale better, faster, and both from a profitability and then, again, wherever that takes you,
right.
Hiring.
And then guess what? If you get to a point where you've exhausted what Secret Sauce can provide, you can work with any of our experts one-on-one and move into their high-ticket programs, because you've reached a level where that price point is now comfortable for you and you are ready in your business to go to that next level of knowledge as well.
Wow. I mean, we could keep talking, and I'm sure we'll come back to some of this, but I think, back when you mentioned if you're going to work with a sale or a business coach, make sure that they've been successful in that realm. You threw out earlier, you were an attorney. And I know some of your background already, but not everybody out there does. Mm-hmm. So how does April get to where April is today? You know, growing up, did you grow up in a small business family? Did you have any thoughts of wanting to be a small business owner? What was little April like?
Little April. Well, she was a high achiever.
Going back to how you said business owners are high achievers.
High achiever, more mature for my age. I would end up talking to adults at a party instead of the kids that were my own age, things like that. I was, this I feel like really sums up who I was at that point in my life. When I was in 8th grade, I was 14. We were getting ready to graduate, and we put a piece of paper around the room, and everybody wrote on the paper where they thought you would be in 20 years. And my paper came back, and most of my classmates had written President of the United States. And I was like so disappointed, because I'm like, that's not even a legitimate answer. You can't be President of the United States until you're 35. So that is kind of who little April.
What did little April write?
I don't even remember.
You just remember, like, let's shut this off right now.
I'm just like, that may be true, but not in 20 years, you know, dingleberries. Anyway, no, so my dad is very, very creative. My dad, he has owned a couple of businesses throughout his life, although I never thought of him as a small business owner, because most of my childhood, he was a warehouse manager for Montgomery Wards. But he invents games, and he would make games for us growing up. He still does it to this day, where big holidays we all get together as a family, and he has created a unique Harry Potter themed game or Marvel themed game or whatever for us to play in the yard.
I want to come over.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's usually a scavenger hunt and clues and all kinds of different things. But so there's definitely that like creative entrepreneurial spirit in my dad, whereas my mom is the one who's very practical and play it safe, and you know, you just got to work hard. I saw both my parents work more than one job growing up, you know, and so very, very hardworking and high work ethic family. When I went to college, I actually went to be an actress. And I grew up as a competitive dancer. Performing was my passion. And so I joined the musical theater program down at Missouri State University. And my mom, of course, is like, I mean, I believe that you'll be a great actress, but would you just consider some accounting classes, you know? And I'm like, I won't do any accounting. But I kind of started to think to myself, I really don't want to be a waitress. And I started to get a little fearful about that. So I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And someone mentioned to me and said, you know, if you're an attorney, you could act every day in front of a jury.
Aha.
And I was like, that's true. And I could be an attorney. Like, I was like, oh no, I could do that. So that kind of, I remember that as being a kind of a switch that flipped, and I started down the path of getting into law school and doing that. So I went to law school, but I knew that the only type of attorney I wanted to be was a prosecuting attorney. And that comes from a really, like, I have a very strong core value of fighting for justice, standing up for justice, I guess, however you want to say it. I've never seen someone being victimized and just been able to sit and be a bystander to that. I've always, sometimes it's not the smartest thing to do, but I interject myself in situations where I feel like someone's been victimized. And so that ultimately kind of led to my consulting, because when I was a franchisee and I saw so many franchisees failing after they had put their 401k in, on all the things that were happening, and our franchisor was not providing any help to them and was being quite combative and frankly a bully, which happens a lot in the franchising world, then that's when I was like, oh no, this cannot stand. So that's what got me into, they elected me as president of our independent franchisee association, which is kind of like a union. And then they also elected me to the franchise advisory council, which is the franchisor's like version of the independent association. Anyway, well, that's a whole nother podcast, but through that, I started mentoring, consulting franchisees to help them do what I had done with my franchise. Everybody was calling me around the country saying, wait a second, we're running the same model and you're not working in it at all. And you're in the top 20% every month of all 800 units. How are you doing that? And so that's really what got me into coaching and consulting.
So from attorney, I get to act in front of people.
Yeah.
To working with businesses, consulting, and moving out of being an attorney and into that kind of consulting world.
Yeah. I mean, I use the same skills every day. As a trial attorney, you have to really understand psychology of people. You have to understand the psychology when you're picking a jury. You have to be able to figure out, who may have biases that would absolutely ensure they will never vote the way that you want them to vote, right? So, and you got to get those people eliminated, and the other side's trying to do the same thing, right? And the goal is to have the most unbiased jury possible. But then once you do, you have 12 strangers in a box, and you're going to ask them all to agree unanimously to send someone to prison for the rest of their lives. I mean, a family can't agree on what to have for dinner. They know each other. Like, that's a hard thing to do. So there's so much strategy. There's strategy in every question that I would ask, every witness that I put on the stand. What order did I put them on the stand? When did I introduce the evidence? Right? There's so much strategy that goes into that. And ultimately now, business coaching and business consulting, I mean, that's all it is being able to think strategically, connect all those dots, be able to see the outcome of how what is the outcome we want? I wanted a guilty verdict. It was going to be a week-long trial. I was going to put on, 35 witnesses and introduce 150 pieces of evidence. How do I do all that working backwards, in order to get that guilty verdict? Same thing now. If you want to create that much X number of revenue in your business and you only want to work 15 hours a week, what does your business have to look like in order to do that? Now let's work backwards and connect all the dots along the way, every department, so that it'll get you there.
Anything you miss about being a prosecuting attorney?
Oh gosh. Yes. I mean, I there's nothing like actually being able to make the argument. I was overly invested in the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial just because being able to see a full trial on TV. I mean, that was a new experience. But being able to see the strategy and thinking, oh, how would I have done that? How would I have done this? From both sides, not that I really hadn't missed it until I had seen that. And then I had a little twinge of oh man, yeah, I really miss it sometimes, but I wouldn't change what I'm doing now.
Okay, one quick squirrel. Do you watch a lot of True Detective crimes? Do you watch a lot of those?
No, that drives me a little crazy. I can't watch Law and Order because there's so many things that are not procedurally correct. So it's that would never fly. That is a violation of their rights. No.
Back to you cannot be a president in 20 years because it's legally not possible.
Exactly.
I love it. So what are some of the things that you learned along the way, whether it was you lucked into success or often for many of us, it's, yeah, I fell into that and learned a lot from that one.
I mean, it's interesting. I guess the biggest thing I learned was, this is going to sound like a left field answer from what we've been discussing, but I've really learned a lot about energy And some people talk about manifesting things. And when I look back over my life, I can see where I really did concentrate my energy, my thoughts on certain things, and those things came to fruition. And when I look back, it doesn't seem like such a haphazard path that got me to where I am. It seems like it was the path I was meant to take all along. And having learned about energy and things like that, what the biggest lesson I could say is that my intuition is probably my biggest asset. And I think this is true for all people. Your intuition is your biggest asset. And when we're overstimulated and we're overworked and we're all these over things, we can't hear our intuition. And that's where we end up making mistakes, is what I've seen. When we can get calm, get that sanity, get into some gratitude, be quiet and listen to your intuition, then you are absolutely capable, and you have everything it takes to actually achieve what it is you want out of life.
You know, it honestly doesn't come out of left field, at least not for me in my journey in the last several years. But we've had other people on the podcast who've said something very similar, that slowing down and really listening. I had a friend had given me, Sarah Stock had given me a book from Oprah and had a bunch of different quotes, and it said one that stuck out to me because I sure became a victim of this, or fell prey to this in my career, was life will whisper to you, and if you don't listen, it will eventually shake the heck out of you.
Yes.
And so I think that energy, so that and everything you described there is, it's a cycle, a tunnel that you're just going down by, that overwhelm, and you're not pausing and you're not working on that, and it just gets worse, and then you make mistakes, and then you have to fix that too, and so you're stuck in that cycle.
100%. I mean, I never feel like there's more hours in the day. When I actually work out, I concentrate on eating the things I'm supposed to eat at the right intervals throughout the day. Suddenly, my day has stretched. Suddenly, I'm like, where did all this time come from? And it's just amazing to me that when I actually put effort into doing the things that fill me up and keep me healthy and sharp mentally, how much more productive and how much easier the day is. Really, like, time-wise, it feels like 24 hours stretched so that I could get everything done with ease. And I think that's really important to acknowledge when you're feeling that way, so that when things are chaotic and you have no time in the day and you feel like I can't fit in a workout, I can't fit in a meal, that you can reflect back and say, well, actually, when I do, it stretches the day. So maybe I slow down for a minute and I eat that, snack or whatever I need to keep going.
I was just telling one of our kids recently, and I think it was James Clear, talked about, you don't have to, if you're used to getting a 30-minute workout in and say, this day is awful, I can't do that, 10 minutes is fine. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to be that 100% all the time. I was just listening to another podcast or something where teaching people that, especially in the financial services field, 80% is really good. It's actually somebody else's great. So kind of going back to the perfectionist tendencies and very high achieving for a business owner, maybe one of the biggest lessons is learning that it doesn't have to be 95 or above for that A every day, every interaction.
100%. Yeah, and there's something, I can't even remember where the source is now. I think it is a book where they talk about how we can have an 80% success, but we'll look back and only see the 20% that we failed. And so, like, our human nature is to just beat ourselves up for that all the time. And if you can start celebrating the success that you had, so you went to run a marathon and you only ran 23 miles. Wow, you ran 23 miles instead of I didn't finish it, right? So I think it goes right along to your point as well. We celebrate. Find in your day where you can celebrate what you've done and how you've shown up. And you are showing up. I'm talking to all the business owners and everybody else out there, but you are showing up so magnificently for so many people all the time. And there are people that you are impacting that you will never know them. You will, but they know you and they appreciate something that you have said or done for them. And those are the unseen wins, but know that they're out there and celebrate them.
And I think that goes back to the gratitude part of your swag, especially for high achievers. I've found that I've had to work on this, that, we tend to just be like, okay, I did that. Next thing I have to accomplish, But sitting back, and some days, just getting that 5-minute workout in or 10-minute workout in is a win because of whatever was going on. And some days it's the 30-minute, but all the little things add up to the success. So, we're working on that with our kids, and they're like, well, I didn't really, do anything this week. And it was like, well, you joined cross country on a whim, then you got COVID and couldn't run for several days, and you still went out there on your first meet and did not walk at all for over 3 miles. Like, you should celebrate that.
Yeah.
That stuff's important. And again, I think the whirlwind and the high achievers, it's really hard to sit back and, pat yourself on the back because you're told forever, which we didn't even get back into, about how you're growing up and you're conditioned to maybe not be that business owner, that employee, that you're just told, don't brag, don't, just keep your head down, keep working hard, and don't stop.
Yeah. I mean, just think back. If you took this wall over here and you started to write down everything you had actually accomplished in your life, like even on the small days, right? The small wins. But if you wrote it down, I mean, the room could not contain the number of things that you have accomplished, right? And that would be, honestly, I think that would be a great gift to give to any kid, is forget the wallpaper, forget the paint, just start, just like you would as they grow and you knock it off on the door frame, start writing on the wall every win that they have. And the wallpaper is like all of the amazing things that they've done in their lives.
Wow. That's an amazing idea. If only I could rewind. My oldest will be 18 soon. If only I could rewind and do that. What a great idea and concept. And the other joy of even capturing, their handwriting
right
over that time. How much fun.
Yeah.
Great little tip. We didn't even know we were going to.
I just came up with that on the fly. That's what you do when you're a business strategist, right? It just idea.
One thing we didn't talk about today is you talked about that you're probably best known as one of the top 10 women in franchising and a top global franchising influencer. Talk more about that. What is that?
Well, I'm very active. Franchising is not an industry. Franchising is a business model that any industry could be part of. But it's a pretty small community, and it's pretty, it's kind of like high school, you know who the players are. And so I'm very active. I am actually on the advisory board for the Titus Center for Franchising, which is the only center for franchising in a business department. Is that the right word? Anyway, Palm Beach Atlantic University, their business school, has the Titus Franchising Center. It's the only one in the country that offers a concentration in franchising. And Palm Beach Atlantic University, I just recently learned, is like one of the best business schools in the country. It's amazing down there. But I'm on the advisory board where I help their department figure out how to educate the next generation of franchising through the students. And I work with other franchise suppliers, franchisors, franchisees. So that doing those types of things in a community like a franchising community, people, you end up earning a name for yourself, right? So yeah, it was very nice to be recognized as one of the top 10 women in franchising.
Well, that leads to a great question. As I mentioned, so many people talk about, well, I want to own my own business one day. As they're going through high school and they're thinking about what degree should I get to one day own my own business, what would that be?
Oh, my goodness. It's funny because in college, I went to Missouri State, which has a great business school, and I was like, business, that's so boring. I would never want to be in anything business. And now, if I had to do it again, 100%, I'd go into the business school, and I would soak up everything in business. I think really economics, I really wish I had taken an economics class. But I think in business economics, it's not always about small business economics. It's more about global economics. But those are important things to know. So I would say definitely the business school. And then within the business school, what area would you want to concentrate in? Marketing. I mean, marketing makes the world go round.
I could totally appreciate that. And actually, this is something I had starred that you had filled out, that this may be a good entree. Being in the fields that I've gone into, accounting and wealth management now, from that number standpoint, I really appreciate the people, and my husband is one of them, who can tell the story and get to, like, I know what I do. I think I know what we do for our clients, but would my client really be able to verbalize, or is that what they would say is that we offer? So the marketing totally makes sense. And something you had mentioned was being more aware of the money mindset around that. So when you think about economics, both smaller but macro, kind of making sure you have some awareness or education in the money side of things.
Oh, yeah. And running your business finances is completely different than the way that you run your personal finances. Personal finance, you bring in a paycheck and then you spend the paycheck. That money, most of that money is going out never to be seen again because it's buying goods and necessities. The opposite is true in business. Most of that money should be generating more money. And it's a completely different mindset. It's a completely different way of looking at money. And it's a different way to make decisions regarding your money on the business side. That because of the way we've grown up and the household, whatever the money situation was in our household and the money approach in our household shapes all the ways that we look at money. And a lot of people have a lot of emotional trauma tied up in just the way that their family managed money. I mean, did you see your parents fight about money all the time? Were you told that you can't get things? Or did mom buy stuff and hide the packages from dad? Like, all these different things go into how we perceive our own finances and our own money. And that, if you can get rid of all that trash, then that's going to really open up a whole world for you as you grow your business.
So thinking of becoming a business owner one day, business school, a lot of marketing, but don't forget the financial, money, economic side of it either.
Yeah. I mean, to be totally honest, my best advice is if you really wanted to start a business, I wouldn't even bother with going to college and going to business school, because what they teach you is so theoretical. And like what we're teaching, just like most people, I went to 3 years of law school. I did internships with prosecutor's office and the federal attorney general, U.S. attorney's office. And I got out of law school and felt like I had no idea what to do on the first day of work. By the third month as a prosecutor, I knew more about the law and about courtroom procedure and everything that I had supposedly been taught in law school, right? I learned more in 3 months on the job than I did in the 3 years in law school. And that's true in business too. So, I mean, if you can, take a program like Secret Sauce or dive in and start to learn practically in the context of business ownership, you're actually going to be on a faster track if that's really what you wanted to do.
So thinking of those people that either have always wanted to start a business or already have, whether it's they're early on or later and they're feeling that stuck, or potentially a parent of somebody who says they want to, how do they come find April and Secret Sauce, and how would they start those conversations?
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of great free resources out there. I mean, I have the Infinite Franchisee Show podcast, which I market it to franchisees, but it's general business education and advice, so you can check that out. SecretSauce.net is where you can learn everything about Secret Sauce and apply for the small business grants. Go to SecretSauce.net and apply for a small business grant, because we want to get money in the hands of small businesses that need it. And then if you want to learn more about me, you can look me up anywhere. Type in Ask April Porter, and it's my website. It's all of my social media handles, Ask April Porter, and there I am.
I remember Secret Sauce.
Oh, yes.
SOS.
It's secretsos.net.
Anything else again, there's probably, we could talk about court cases and fun stories. We could talk about going back to how when you're growing up, how schools and different things kind of break out the squelch, the entrepreneurship.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else we didn't get to today beyond, some of the summaries and things I wrote down is the swag really stood out to me. Sanity, wealth, and gratitude. Again, get out of business to get rid of some of that stress and tension, and yet often it creates more. And making sure that you're aware of leadership and culture, the client success side, but pouring into yourself, and that you end up freeing up really more time, and the path seems to be clearer.
Yeah.
When you can clear your mind and your body yourself.
Right. And I guess I would leave it with this is, like you mentioned earlier when we were talking about how business owners listening to this are sitting there saying like, yeah, but that's not going to work for me. And, all the reasons that it can't be the life that I've described, right? The sanity, wealth, and gratitude. Most of the time that happens because we started our business journey looking at what the next step was instead of looking at what the real vision for your life is. Take some time this weekend, pour yourself a glass of wine, get quiet, get somewhere really relaxing, and get out a journal and just write down if you had a lamp and a genie was there and you could wish for the things that you wanted for your life in 10 years, what would your life look like? Would it look like making the flowers in the flower shop, or would it look like you're spending time on a boat with your family, right? And you call in, or you have a Zoom meeting with your employees. What does it look like? What's the big vision? Once you get a handle on that, then we can work backwards and figure out how to connect the dots to get you there. But if you don't understand that vision, all you're ever seeing is what's right in front of you. And that's why it feels like you can't get ahead of it.
And you may just need, in fact, be propelled further if you can invite somebody in to help you clear your mind and sift through that.
Happens all the time. My clients never actually use the first vision they came up with, because that first vision is based upon what they know right now. And as soon as we have some mindset shifts, then they're like, in fact, I had a Secret Sauce client say to us this week, I want to go back and redo the first mission, because I think with my new perspective and mindset, I wouldn't have filled out my vision the same way now that I did 3 weeks ago. So I want to go back and redo that. We said, that's amazing. Go do it.
Wow. I'm excited to check it out, learn more. It sounds so simple, like duh, but also so groundbreaking. And the approach and how to handle this and really propel people forward so much more. So thank you for everything you shared. I'm almost glad we left a little bit on the table because they can go to the website and find you and learn more and capture more of it. So thank you again, April, for all the good nuggets of wisdom. I always know these things are going to be great, but today just got me thinking so much. So I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
This concludes another episode of the She Lift Project podcast. To hear more episodes of the show, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And to learn more about our mission of helping women reach higher levels of success, visit sheliftproject.com and sign up to receive the latest news, ebooks, videos, and more.